Welcome back to Face the State. I'm Ariana Bennett. Thank you for staying with us. Well, it seems everywhere we look, presidential candidates are in the headlines, even with more than a year to go before the election. Now, with candidates grabbing so much attention so early on, is this signaling a change in our political landscape? The University of Nevada political science professor Eric Herzik is here to talk about that. Eric, thank you so much once again for being on the show.
My pleasure.
Okay, so this campaign season is just, it seems like it's heating up so quickly, so much earlier than in years past. Is this unprecedented?
In a way, yes. It has picked up earlier, but really only on one side, on the Republican side. The Democratic side is about where you would expect. There is a favorite. The other candidates are out there, in a sense, trying to get organized and going. On the Republican side, it's there. I think this is something of a continuation of trends we've seen, where it's the perpetual campaign. You have, whether in the traditional media, all the channels on cable television, you have social media now, always talking about politics. They're filling the time. And you are going to have what basically an open seat election in 2016, and the Republicans are fired up and ready to go.
Right, obviously, with just this huge slate of candidates.
Yes.
And I want to get to that in just a second, but is there value, do you think, to extending this campaign season really so it's never ending? Or do you think that maybe people get sick of it and that just kind of eliminates political activity from the voters? Well,
you're quite a bit younger than I, but from your question, I would say I'm sick of it, and I don't see much advantage of having this extended campaign. Right now, the people who really, we can overstate how much attention is being focused on the campaign. Again, it's really on the Republican side, and it's really a subset of the Republican Party, the most conservative wing, the people who are paying the most attention. And you see this at the rally a while back in Washington, D.C., where overwhelmingly white, older, more religious voters are, for a variety of reasons, fired up, ready to go. But the mainstream American voter, even the mainstream Republican voter, is just not that attuned to the process this early.
Yeah, I think that is a key thing, definitely, that I want to talk about a little bit. So, talking about the big field of Republican candidates, there are so many, and I know that this isn't completely unheard of. Do you expect it to thin out a lot before the actual primary, or do you think they're all going to ride it all the way through?
Well, they won't ride all the way through because people will run out of money. In fact, we've already had one casualty, Rick Perry, dropped out, which kind of shows you, too, the half-life of a politician. If you go back 4 years ago, Rick Perry going into the campaign was the front runner, or one of the front runners. And now he's just yesterday's news. Lindsey Graham will probably drop out pretty soon, whether he knows that he's out or not, because he won't have any money. And you'll end up with a kind of, and you already have this, kind of an upper tier, a middle tier, and a lower tier. And the lower tier consistently will start to fall by the wayside. Once you hit Iowa, then it becomes far more real. And anybody who doesn't do well there, if you're not in that top group, if you don't have a lot of money up front, then you will find it's much harder to get campaign workers, it's much harder to pay them. You will find what Rick Perry found. He ran out of money to run his campaign.
Yeah, and speaking of Iowa, all these opinion polls are placing Donald Trump as the front runner by a large margin, despite what many have called a really large number of borderline offensive comments, definitely some inflammatory things that he's said that in previous campaigns, if anyone else had said it, you'd think that they would have been discounted right away. He is far and away the leader right now. Is that sustainable for a serious presidential candidate, do you think?
Well, unlike many of the Republicans running, and even your comment, I find his comments not just borderline offensive, they are offensive. They're unfounded, they're loud, they're entertaining. And actually that's what's really happening here is that you have a core of people who, yes, are angry, but they're not very representative of the voting public as a whole. They're watching, but many other people are just watching. It's almost like a reality TV show of which Donald Trump stars, and he's just moved it over to the political arena. It'll be interesting to see how he does as debates unfold, as he keeps getting questions, sooner or later he's going to have to answer questions with some specifics. And he really hasn't done that, and he's gotten a fairly easy go of it. For whatever reason, many of the other Republicans running have been deferential. I don't get that. I mean, in this week's debate, I would immediately ask him, so your comment about Carly Fiorina's face wasn't sexist, you say, so you are telling me that you can judge who should be the president by how they look? Look at all the guys up here. Which ones look presidential? And of course he would then say, well, you're picking on me, what? But sooner or later he's going to have to answer these questions in a more serious way than just whatever, or you're being mean to me. And we'll see how. I don't think his act will hold that all the way through.
Yeah, that's the curious thing to me. I was going to ask you if it is more of the fact that it's entertaining, or is it really just that voters are so fed up with the political status quo that they do find it refreshing and would want to see a leader like that?
Well, it's a little bit of both. I mean, yeah, it's entertaining, so people are watching it as they would watch a car crash. By the same token, the people who are flocking to him, they are angry, and there's no doubt about it. But they are a small segment of the electorate as of right now. And they're the ones who are paying attention to it, while most Americans are still kind of wrapping up the summer and are really not attuned to this. This doesn't get serious until until January, let's say, when you're going to have people turn out for Donald Trump on a cold night in Iowa in February. You're going to have them show up in caucuses in Nevada, and you'll get some showing up, but the other candidates who have on-the-ground efforts will also have their people showing up.
All right. Well, turning to the Democrats a little bit, Hillary is still the front runner in most states, although Bernie Sanders is catching up to her in some places. But she's just been embroiled in this scandal about her email servers. Do you think that she will be able to survive it?
I think so, and there's kind of almost now a cliche in politics. It's the Clintons, it's scandal, it doesn't hurt them. And I think that's a little too flip to kind of just dismiss it totally. She has not handled this scandal well. She's gone back and forth. I'm not going to apologize. Oh, I am apologizing. Oh, it was a good thing to do. It didn't really matter what I did. She hasn't told a consistent story. She didn't get out in front of this, and it just will not go away. I don't know that there's that much there in terms of, well, she could have had top secret information. They haven't found that yet. Oh no, they found some things that now are coded as being secret, but at the time weren't. She will never pass the test of her most virulent critics, who will just say, well, how do we know what she destroyed? I think she survives. I think she survives among Democrats simply because they really don't have a plan B. What I've said about this campaign is that the Democrats, if Hillary Clinton goes down, do not have a viable plan B. It's not Bernie Sanders.
What about Joe Biden?
That's a weaker plan B. Where the Republicans don't have a plan A. They've got plan, B through F or B through M. And so I think just for that reason, the Democrats are going to have to hang with Hillary Clinton as long as possible.
Interesting. Okay. I want to turn a little bit local now, we've got a few minutes left. Harry Reid, not running for another term. He's handpicked Catherine Cortez Masto to be his successor. Do you think it's going to be an easy win for her? You think Joe Heck's going to give her a run for her money?
Oh, I don't see it an easy win at all, if it is even a win. Nevada will be a swing state. It will very much depend on turnout. In 2014, the Republicans will say, oh, well, look what happened in 2014. We won everything. The Democrats are in the dustbin of history. The Democrats didn't show up in 2014, and I think they will in 2016, particularly organized labor. Organized labor didn't turn out in 2014. They had a very bad legislative session. They know it. They know they need to get their act together. Catherine Cortez Masto could be the first Latina major office holder, and so that could activate the Latino vote, the female vote. These are core constituencies of the Democratic Party that weren't there in 2014. They could be in 2016. I'm not discounting the Republican chance, though, and it will depend on who's the candidate. If, for example, you had, say, a John Kasich and Marco Rubio Republican ticket, that could play very well in Nevada. Rubio could chip away at any type of Latino vote. Kasich would be seen as kind of, anti-union perhaps, not as much as, say, Scott Walker, but that could help the Republicans. If the Republicans came with, I don't know, Ted Cruz at the top of the ticket, no, I think the state would swing wildly for the Democrats. So that's one that's way too early to tell. And I think both candidates have skills, they both have money, they both have organization, they've both run before. That is going to be a very good race. Yeah.
Okay, 1 minute left. I really want to know, with all of the attention-grabbing statements and flashy headlines, what should we be ignoring and what should we be really paying attention to, and quickly because we're almost out of time?
Well, in terms of, you can ignore a lot of what's being said now. You're seeing candidates just pander to what they think are going to be the constituencies that are going to turn out in these early primary states. They are not speaking to the electorate as a whole, which I think will hurt them later on in the process. What to pay attention to? Watch your candidates and look at their records. I mean, so many people are saying, what I would do this, I would lead from the front, and they really have no experience at all. And that's one where you have to take what they say with a grain of salt.
Okay, Eric Herzog, thank you so much for your
Thank you.
time. I do appreciate it, as always. Well, that is it for this episode of Face the State, but for more information or to see past episodes, just head to our website, ktvn.com. Thank you so much for being with us. We will see you next week.